My name is Kelly, and I'm the teen librarian from the Rockwood Library. Today, I'm going to read you a chapter from None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio. This book is about a girl who is intersex. And intersex means somebody whose body doesn't fit what we typically consider to be male or female. Before we get started, I want to recognize that I am cisgendered, and that comes with a lot of privilege. I'm not reading this book in order to take somebody's experience as my own or to erase other people's voices. But it is important that everybody is able to see themselves reflected in books, and it's equally important that everybody reads books that are outside of their experience. It helps to have a broader view of the world. So I chose this book because there aren't a lot of positive portrayals of people that are intersex in our society, even though it's really not all that rare. So when I get started, I'm actually not going to read the first chapter. I'm jumping to the middle of the book. And I don't want to waste too much time talking about it. Sorry, I'm looking for my spot. But since we're getting started in the middle, I do want to let you know where we are in the book. So Kristen, who is the main character, she uses she, her pronouns, so that's what we're going to use throughout, and that's what I used at the beginning. Her secret has come out. She has gotten bullied at school, and her boyfriend broke up with her. Directly before this chapter, she got surgery in order to remove some of the male parts that were on the inside of her body. So when Faith called later that afternoon, she was totally shocked when I told her about my surgery. "Oh my God, was it something serious?" "It was just a hernia," I said, which wasn't exactly a lie. "Why didn't you tell me?" I had no excuse and I knew it, but Faith forgave me as always. "You know, I'm the chair of the Sunshine Club," she said. "We should at least throw together a care package for you. My mom just got some of those almond cookies that you love so much. I'll send around a card tomorrow." And what would people write in it? "No, please don't make a big deal. I should only be out a few days." Dr. Chang had actually said I might not have to miss any school at all, but no one needed to know that. I'm pretty sure they covered making a big deal about surgery in Friendship 101. "I'll stop by tomorrow to give you my bio notes," she said. "I can't promise that I won't bring brownies too." I really hoped she wouldn't send around that card. Could I tell her not to ask anyone who would like that picture on Facebook? After we got off the phone, I turned on my computer. I'd untagged myself in the photo, but I couldn't help myself from going back to it like a moth to a flame. Pat's picture was up to 132 likes. Once again, seeing the profile picture of me and Sam together took my breath away. The reminder of old happiness cutting like a razor blade. I deleted the picture, but couldn't bring myself to find another one, and left the generic drawing of an androgynous blue silhouette in its place. Fitting. That's when I noticed that just underneath my empty profile, where it said "in a relationship," Sam's name was missing. When I searched for his name on my friends list, he was gone too. I couldn't find him on Facebook at all. I had been blocked. We were officially over. It shouldn't have come as a surprise to me. It shouldn't have reduced me to a crying, shaking ball of misery, but there you have it, the power of the internet. I cried at the memory of how warm and safe I'd felt when he hugged me. I cried because I blamed myself for not telling him as soon as I got my diagnosis. But mostly I cried because I missed everything about him. His grin, his quiet sense of humor, the steadiness of his footsteps as they kept pace beside me. I knew I wasn't supposed to run yet, but my whole body itched for it, craved it like a junkie. The feel of the muscles pulling, heart thumping, lungs filled to the brim with air and life. I couldn't stay in my room any longer, couldn't sit still while the world crumbled around me. I pulled on my workout clothes. At the bottom of the stairs, I peeked into the living room where Aunt Carla was ensconced on the couch. "I'm just going out for a second," I told her, standing out of sight so she couldn't see my blotchy face. "Make sure to be back in time for dinner," she said, barely looking up from her crossword puzzle. "I've got a roast in the oven." I decided to run my 3-mile loop, which took me through the older part of our development, the one with fewer kids in high school. As soon as I felt the pavement under my feet, the cloud in my mind lifted and my legs took over. My incision pulled as I ran, but the soreness was a sweet kind of pain, reminding me that I wasn't the same person, the same thing that I had been the day before. The wonderful tangibility of it struck me for the first time. I would have scars to prove what I had done for Sam. Surely he would be able to see that. With a subconscious eagerness, I found myself turning into my 5-mile loop. My eyes had dried, my nose no longer felt like a cherry tomato. In my mind, I ticked off the landmarks at each half mile. The library, the old farmhouse with a barn once red that had faded to a light pink. Sam's house. With a jolt of recognition, I stopped. The world spun. The light in his room was on, a shining beacon. Was I imagining it, or could I almost make out the shadow of a person? Who knew how long I would have stood on the sidewalk in front of the Wilmingtons' house with a staccato heart and gasping breath if a car hadn't pulled up into his driveway and brought me to my senses. I turned to flee back the way I'd come, but then a door slammed and I heard a woman shouting behind me, "Kristen! Hey, Kristen!" I turned around. Sam's mom walked down the driveway to meet me, her wide grin so similar to her son's that it made me want to cry. As much as I wanted to run, I couldn't. "Kristen," she said, holding out her arms, "I haven't congratulated you yet for homecoming. Tell me, have you come back down to earth yet?" As I sank into Mrs. Wilmington's hug, I realized that Sam must have been too embarrassed to tell his mom. It was almost worse than her running me off the property. I plastered a pleased look onto my face, praying that it would be convincing. "Nope, it's still sinking in. Please tell me you'll come in and have something to drink. Sam's been holed up in his room the past couple of days. He and Bruce must have had some sort of spat." "Oh, I'm only halfway through my run," I said, jogging back a couple of steps. Mrs. Wilmington clicked her tongue and grabbed my hand. "Don't be ridiculous, Kristen. The season hasn't even started yet, and Madison misses you. She hasn't seen you in weeks." I allowed her to pull me toward the driveway, partly because I didn't want to be rude, but mostly because I couldn't help but dream that being brought in by Mrs. Wilmington would put me under a spell of protection. Sam would have to listen to me if I was with his mother. Walking into the Wilmingtons felt like coming home, right down to the spot in the shoe rack for my sneakers. "Sam, you've got company," his mother yelled. When he didn't respond, she shooed me toward the stairs and she went into the kitchen. "I'll get you some Gatorade. Blue, right? You know where to go." I hadn't even gotten to the bottom step to the door when the door to the basement rec room flew open and a 12-year-old whirling dervish flew out. "Hey, who's here? Chrissy, is that you?" Sam's little sister Madison threw herself at me with such force that I almost lost my balance. "You never emailed me the pictures of your dress," she said reproachfully when she let go. "Sam just had one teeny shot on his phone and the lighting sucked." I had to laugh at how stern she looked, even with her curly brown hair frizzing out in all directions from her run up the stairs. "Why aren't you wearing your ring?" My grin froze on my face. "I had to get it sized a little, but it was a bit too small. But it was beautiful. Sam said you helped pick it out." "I did," she said proudly. "Sam wanted to get you this awful gold thing, but I told him that silver and green would be better colors for you." "Did he tell you about our Christmas pageant? I got a part of an angel. Promise me you'll come to opening night." I tried so hard to keep smiling that it hurt. "Congratulations, sweetie. You know I'll do my best to make it." "Okay, I'm going to look beautiful. Want to see a picture of my costume?" She was tugging me toward the rec room when her mom came in. "Maddie, I know you're excited to see Kristen, but why don't you let her go up and talk to Sam for a little while?" Mrs. Wilmington handed me a cup of Gatorade. Madison pouted. "But it's not going to take a little while. It always takes forever." "Then maybe you should think of something to do that'll take a long time," said her mom. "Why don't you give Allison a call?" "Okay," Madison slumped. "See you soon," she told me. I nodded wordlessly as she went back downstairs. My hand only shook a bit as I drank the blue Gatorade. "Thanks so much," I said, handing the cup back to Mrs. Wilmington. She smiled. "Madison really thinks of you as her playmate first and Sam's girlfriend second. Why don't you go upstairs? I'm going to start some dinner." I took the first step cautiously, as if I were scaling a cliff. Though I'd barely broken a sweat in the cool autumn air, someone had cranked the heat up in the house. At the top of the stairs, I stopped to wipe a thin sheen of sweat from my forehead. I redid my ponytail in a mirror on the landing, thinking about how I always used to make fun of the girls on my track team who ran with makeup in their little armbands instead of iPods. Silently, I walked to the second room on the right and listened at Sam's door to the strains of Eminem. As I raised my hand to knock, a track ended and I could hear the faint sound of a keyboard clattering. I wondered if he was doing homework or IMing or posting to Facebook. With a flash, I came to my senses. My hand dropped. What in God's name was I doing? What could I possibly say that would change his mind? I would never be able to take back his humiliation or restore his ruined reputation. I deserved nothing, not his forgiveness and certainly not his love. He'd already made his wishes clear. Stay away. I took a step back, turned around, but before I reached the top of the stairwell, his door opened. So that was a chapter of None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio. You can find this both as a print, as an ebook, and as a downloadable audiobook. You can get those on our website, or you can get the downloadable audio or the ebook through your Libby or Overdrive app. So thank you for spending your time with me, and keep an eye out for more books we love.